Hello and welcome to Protect Ukraine Now YouTube channel. Today, I would like to share with you a conversation I had with my friend Yuri. Yuri is also an advocate for Ukraine. We have met many times at various rallies, and just last week at Washington, D.C. event where we together went to see our Republican and Democrat senators and representatives. And today, we're going to talk about a very difficult subject. We're going to discuss advocacy for Ukraine following a complete fiasco in diplomacy last Friday. Hi, Yuri. Good to see you. Honestly, I was hoping we're going to be recording a totally different video about how we had successful meetings on the Hill last week. We just came back from a wonderful event organized by UCCA, Ukraine
Yeah,
Congress Coalition of America. Uh, we met with Republicans, Democrats, senators.
Ukrainian Congress Committee of America.
Yes, sorry, I misspoke. So again, great event, and following the latest news from last Friday, uh, I'd like to slightly change, or significantly change the topic and talk about how this fiasco in diplomacy, because I think everyone agrees that was a complete fiasco. Uh, shouldn't have gone in that direction. This obviously affects our work as advocates, and we need like a new strategy. So what do you think?
I still think it's important to reach out to congressmen and in such a way as not to completely criticize President Trump, but still have an approach of saying these latest events and actions uh, by the administration, they're just going to make United States weaker.
Totally agree that we need to find a way to turn down the temperature. There's like
Mhm.
too much hatred at the moment. I don't mean to say this is not justified. People rightfully feel angry and upset, but
Mhm.
advocacy is, now that I think about it, is also diplomacy. When we show up nicely dressed in Washington, D.C., and we talk to senators, representatives, or their staff, we need to be very professional. Often we may disagree with a certain politician, but we there not to argue, we're there to present an alternative point of view, which is, in our case, Ukraine needs to be supported. Ukraine is part of global security. Peace through strength, global peace through strength begins in Ukraine. First, we have to achieve ceasefire peace over there. So uh, that that's probably a good message, the one that doesn't point back to one or the other party as being 100% guilty at what has happened on Friday. I think we've seen mistakes being done on both sides. And I guess everyone is talking about what has happened on Friday. Maybe we can get to it later if we want, if we have the time and courage to talk about it. No, I'm kidding. We'll have the courage.
Sure,
We are Ukrainians.
sure.
Ukrainians are very
Yes.
courageous people. But yeah, we're really what's interesting. I want to point this out. By the way, I think Trump's administration is uh, not happy about this development either. I've noticed that Mark Rubio and many other people in Trump's cabinet, they now go out and they give interview on CNN, MSNBC, the opposition media. And that tells me that what they're doing is damage control. They understand that damage was done and they're trying to mitigate. So I think, again, our job is to return to normality as much as possible. And that should be done through constructive criticism. Another good message, I'm thinking, and another good message is reminding Americans that it's American people who, through the United States Congress, voted for assistance to Ukrainian people. So a failure in the democracy, in the diplomacy, I'm sorry, failure in the diplomacy should not be a reason for cutting aid to people on the front line. For example, our defenders'
Right.
weapons to be effective. Another question, American politics is all electoral politics, I guess. It's all about elections. We have
Mhm.
next elections are in short 2 years, and everything that happens today is going to be interpreted as either support for one party or the other. How
For
do
sure.
we message so that we stay bipartisan? Ukraine obviously needs support for both parties.
You know, um, again, the big thing is that Ukraine is fighting for American values, and these are the values of the free world. United States um, is a leader in the free world, and so um, that that should point the case of, if Ukraine is fighting for those values, the same values that America stands for, this should be this should be like a bipartisan uh, support for Ukraine.
Okay, so we should underscore our bipartisan values, things that are common across
Yeah.
the nation, and focus on that.
Hmm.
Right.
That and then at the same time underscore that Russia, through its actions, kidnapping children, torturing uh, priests, Ukrainian priests, or Ukrainian Christians, uh, basically does not respect the rule of law. It's a complete opposite of the values that America stands for.
Yeah, definitely. They commit yeah, unimaginable crimes as far as Americans concerned, the people who enjoyed peace for a very long time. So
I would also add, I don't know, this is what I was just thinking recently is, for example, how President Trump was telling Europe uh, that United States can't be uh, like the brunt of the the defense in NATO. Like Europe needs to step up. And the same thing I thought that, Ukraine has been on the right side of history so many times, using its people basically to fight off dictators, uh, aggressors, and genocidal maniacs. So back before the World War II, there was the Holodomor, the artificial famine that Stalin imposed on Ukraine. The recorded number is around 4 million, but a lot of people say it's up to 10 million Ukrainians lives lost. Then during World War II, millions of Ukrainians fought on the Allies' side and against the Nazi Germany, and millions of Ukrainians died during that war. Now there's thousands of Ukrainians dying in this war that Putin has started. So it's just Ukraine can't be the one that's using its population, people, uh, just fighting, against all these dictators. Ukraine shouldn't be fighting alone with it.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely correct. Yes, Ukraine did step up by standing to aggressor, and now it's time that at least Europe helps Ukraine, but we're also looking in the direction of the United States. We always have been. as unfortunate as it is, Europe is not in a good position to help, and we already hear calls from Europeans to return to peace negotiations with President Trump, and uh, I believe these calls are for a reason. Europeans cannot
Hmm.
support Ukraine on their own.
Yeah.
So, another thing I wanted to point out again, this reporting is for our friends in the advocacy field, people
Hmm.
from various organizations or independent folks who stand for Ukraine and make those phone calls, attend rallies, and so on. I think it's just important to underscore to all of our listeners that Ukraine right now is being dragged right in between American left and right American politics, and this is very damaging. We need to return back to bipartisan.
Hmm.
And another another thing to keep in mind, we cannot lose Republicans that support Ukraine. For example, the latest comment by President Zelenskyy that I thought is escalatory, doesn't help at all when he suggested that if Senator Lindsey Graham wants to call for his resignation, he should move to Ukraine. Zelensky will grant him Ukrainian citizenship, and then he will have influence over elections in Ukraine. Maybe this is fair. Most likely, this is a very fair statement if you are chatting with a friend in a bar. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a very smart comeback, you know, I mean, 100%. I would probably say something like that in a private conversation. But this is a big failure in diplomacy. Lindsey
Hmm.
Graham is, oh, I should say was, I don't know how it's going to be going forward, but Lindsey Graham has been to Ukraine 8 times. He's one of the people in the US Senate who always supported Ukraine, and he led legislations in support of Ukraine.
Yeah.
Any measures that further alienate people who support Ukraine is again very damaging. The best thing we can do as community is to focus on Republicans that support Ukraine and make sure that support is still there going forward. Like they understand that this was a failure of diplomacy, but this is not that Ukrainian people no longer appreciate Americans, American government, or no longer need help. And we're talking again, we're looking at the current event, not from the point of view of Americans or Ukrainians. This is not about Zelensky or Trump. This is about advocacy. It's about how we can help Ukraine going forward. So, and we obviously want to do it in the most effective way. So, uh, all messaging should be free of insults of current Republican administration. Any constructive criticism is more than appropriate. We should criticize Trump, but we need to do it in a constructive way.
Right. And one thing I was I was talking with some people from the American Coalition for Ukraine, and it was suggested that if people aren't signed up for, for their congressman, their newsletters, their, I don't know, the weekly updates or something that they get, that they should do that. They should sign up because then they'll get notified about town hall meetings. And this would be something that they could use to further advocate for Ukraine. Either physical town hall meetings or like tele town hall meetings over the phone. So I think that that would be something useful to do. So
Definitely.
if people aren't signed up for their congressman newsletters, updates, they should go to their website, go to those websites of the congressman and sign up for those newsletters.
Definitely. And again, we lucky to have Democrats on Ukraine side. there's a portion of Republicans who unfortunately will never be supporters. And then
Hmm.
there's this small, hopefully we'll keep it significant, segment of senators and representatives who support Ukraine. And our goal is to keep and grow that support. Because if the opposite happens and we lose those Republicans who are still on Ukraine side, then the Ukraine issue becomes 100% partisan. And at that point, any assistance to Ukraine is going to be canceled, stopped until there's a change in the balance in House or Senate. And the first opportunity to change that balance is going to be in 2 years. So again, very important that we keep that bipartisan support for Ukraine.
Hmm. Hmm. I would think maybe, those Republicans that have been consistently supporting Ukraine, you could probably call them Reagan Republicans. And so if we use Reagan messaging, like from his speeches, from Ronald Reagan, and kind of remind them of how he talked about the evil empire, referring to Soviet Union, but now Russia. Uh, Maybe that's something that could reignite the spark in them.
Yeah, Reagan is definitely a hero among so many Republicans. After all, he's a person who defeated the Soviet Union. He
Hmm.
broke it into pieces. And frankly, Ronald Reagan is my favorite president because thanks to him, I had the chance to leave the Soviet Union. It
Hmm.
broke and right before we left, but we already had the opportunity to leave because of the union got weakened significantly.
Yeah.
All right, so let's touch a little bit the sensitive subject. So here's how I want to raise the question. Agree or disagree, but there's a certain way that Republicans understand what has happened on Friday. I
Hmm.
think that's important that we understand how Republicans see the events of that day. Without understanding them, we cannot have a successful advocacy. Like next time you and I walk into a Republican office, we need to understand what's on their mind or make a phone call or otherwise advocate, right? So, Yuri, in your opinion, um, so we understand where Republicans come from. Like, what do you think has happened there that Republicans got, oh, Trump and then his supporters got pissed at?
Well, it seemed that uh, one thing that I think um, Zelensky kept sort of interrupting, uh, or always trying to put his 2 cents in whenever a question was asked. I don't know. It just seemed,
That he's been pushy and rude.
yeah, pushy, a bit too pushy, something, and it just seemed that there could have been a better way that he could uh, reinforce that yes, security guarantees are needed, but not in a way to uh, interrupt the conversation and the questions.
So, like I have seen a number of things that Zelensky could have done better. Uh,
Mhm.
First, like Trump made it clear that they're there to sign
Mineral deal.
the minerals deal, right? Zelensky switched gears into a different conversation. He immediately went into discussion over security guarantees, which in Trump's mind should follow only when Putin and Zelenskyy agree to how this war should end. And in Trump's mind, this is not a conversation he wanted to have right now, especially not a conversation he wants to have in front of cameras. Like this was a photo op. This was really a time and place to shake hands and express gratitude for each other and hopes that the future or the next meeting, which is going to follow right after, is going to be successful and talk about expectations that everything is going to be wonderful and that's kind of what those photo ops press conferences are supposed to be about. So so I think we need to understand that Republicans see that there was a push from President Zelenskyy, right?
Yeah.
To do things that Trump wanted to do in a different time. And I think this is fair to acknowledge that this wasn't the best way to communicate those
Hmm.
security needs that Ukraine definitely needs more military support. Like, I don't know what security guarantees other than NATO President Zelenskyy is talking about, but we all understand that security for Ukraine is strength that makes it very difficult to assault again for Russians. So as long as Russia sees Ukraine as an easy victim, they will attack Ukraine again. We need to change that's the status. And
If we go ahead, finish.
no, I was going to say that I believe everyone agrees that lasting peace is very important. I believe the Great Britain's PM Starmer, he underlined that just a few days ago during a similar meeting where he mentioned that secure and lasting peace in Ukraine is the goal of his administration, and he expressed his hopes that Trump is going to support that as well. And Trump certainly agreed, or at least he did disagree during that conversation.
Hmm. I was gonna say it would be good to, uh, maybe even rewatch, but the visits between Trump and Macron and Trump and Keir Starmer, how how those press conferences went, and then rewatch Zelensky's, and they it seems like especially Macron, he was in a very uh, uh, you know, uh, kind of happy, joyful mood, would maybe correct Trump, but it would be in a very um, kind of playful way. And Trump might would disagree with him, but he would still also kind of do disagree in a playful way. And so it worked for the press conference. Like everything's good. We're having a good time. We're making progress. Uh, But with Zelensky's attitude, uh, mood was kind of very, mm, I don't know. It just seemed like he seemed maybe was already not in a good mood when the press conference started. And uh, then anytime something Trump would answer, even the reporters noticed that he was shaking his head and disagreeing with Trump. So it
Yeah,
was just not very constructive.
yeah. And again, for everyone who is watching this video, and by the way, I totally agree with you, Lee. Uh, for everyone watching this video, we're not bad mouthing Zelensky. We're trying
Right.
to find some balance. and we want to understand why Republicans are unhappy with how this conversation went. Also, again, I want to underline that our goal is to lower the temperature. When
Hmm.
people are upset and fighting, it's very hard to reach a common ground and understanding. Advocacy is diplomacy. I'm going to say this now. From this point on, I'm going to say that that's it. We are actually involved in diplomacy, not just advocacy. Well, jokes aside, when we meet for real with our senators and representatives, we certainly try to be as professional as possible. Next time you post something on Facebook or Instagram, or you write something on a piece of carton board and take it with you to a rally, think about whether or not you're going to use that language in a conversation with a senator. Like imagine you
Hmm.
sitting in an office on a nice sofa in Washington, D.C. You have a senator of United States across. What are you going to tell that person? So our messaging should be as constructive,
Professional.
professional, and constructive.
Yeah.
Super. I guess this is everything I wanted to talk about. Yuri, do you want to have any closing thoughts?
Um, I think, like always, we need to just keep fighting, but always think about the approach of how we fight. You know, make sure that it's as you mentioned it, diplomatic. That and that we're all trying to reach the same goal. You know, peace in Ukraine, but a durable peace and uh, with some justice. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, advocacy is a very effective way to influence our government. Every person, every senator, every representative we ever talk to, they confirm that phone calls and meetings and letters sent to their offices matter. They're counted and they are taken into account when policy decisions are made. And I'm very glad to have Yuri today. Look at his face. He is a person who is always at rallies. He's going with us to Washington. He is a person thanks to who we have this success. And yes, I believe what we had so far is success. We had a lot of support for Ukraine. We had very few people compared to 330 million Americans that live in the United States, but we had an amazing success with the little numbers that we had participate in advocacy, and we want to grow this number. So please join us. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, please leave your comments. And until the next time.